How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China. It's the 13th of February 1938. We're in Huai Province and we're south of the Huai River. We are in what could be termed the Japanese rear area, and we are with the 31st Army of Liu Shayi as it counterattacks. Now, what brings us all here? Now, if you remember in my last video, we were at Bengbu, and I had discussed that Bengbu, the first Japanese assault on Bengbu, had been driven out by the 10th at the cost of a brigade. The Japanese were back the next day, and by the 13th, they had driven the 51st Army out of Bengbu, out of Little Bengbu. And let's remember that the 13th Division of General Huai River had already taken Huai River and was pressing on Little Bengbu and Dingyuaun and heading northeast, all trying to drive on Zuhuang in order to take Zhou. Now, if you remember the game of the Dingyuaun Fengyang line, the 31st Army had withdrawn to the west. And having withdrawn to the west, Liu Shayi, 31st Army Group, as well as the 21st Army Group, and Zhou Zuhuang 7th Army were formed into the 4th Combat Group on the 3rd of February 1938. This formation was ordered to strike the Japanese positions south of the Huai River around Shangyao, Chuzian, Dingyuaun, Fengyang, and Chaihizhen. This was in order to divert Japanese forces from the north bank of the Huai River, in order to enable the 59th Army of Zhang Zhang to relieve the 51st Army of Yu Zhong. Now, we must remember that the Japanese had secured Little Bengbu by the 13th and driven the 51st Army out. Now, the 130th Division, which had been holding Little Bengbu, had lost 80% of its men in combat. This was horrific fighting, but it did bring time and absorb the strength of the Japanese. For although the Japanese army had established itself, and as I said, Rippei Ogusu's HQ was now in Little Bengbu, in order to achieve this, it had lost 8,000 men. And then we must remember that the fighting on the blocking line of the River Chi had cost them another 2,000 to 3,000. So all of these losses, combat-wise, would have been bad enough. But if we look at the rear of the Japanese advance, it's not very promising. He's having to leave units behind, and every night his supply columns shuffle along very bad routes, let's not call them roads, goat tracks, whatever they are, from supply strong point to supply strong point. And the more he advances, the more men he has to dedicate to this protection of his supplies and his flanks. So, the new 4th Combat Group would attack positions south of the River Huai between the 11th and the 13th of February 1938. Now, these battles would force General Rippei Ogusu, to send 3,000 troops back from the front line, from his positions around Huai River and Little Bengbu, to reinforce his rear, to resecure his rear. Now, the Chinese didn't try to hold these towns; they just wiped them out. Um, at Shangyao, the Chinese drove the Japanese out at bayonet point, who then fled to Kaohsiung, and then the Chinese took that town the next day. And as I said, that forced General Rupeogisu, the commander of the 13th Division, to send 3,000 troops back to recapture and refortify those positions. So this game is an amalgamation of the various strikes taken on by the Chinese forces between the 11th and the 13th of February. And we're with the 31st Army Group as we attack a small town to the rear of the Japanese lines and endeavour to capture much needed supplies. Now, I'm going to play this as an 8-turn game, although I hope it doesn't last that long. And this is just to demonstrate how vulnerable the Japanese rear is to concentrated Chinese attack. And as I said, the Chinese, if they were to try and hold these towns against the Japanese, it will cause, even if the Chinese are willing to die to hold these towns, then they're not going to be able to hold them. But they can take them. This town itself I've defended with the Shangyao was defended by 600 Japanese troops. And if we look at that number, we can guess that an ad hoc security battalion was formed of, and for rapid fire purposes, that would be 3 Japanese infantry companies, a machine gun, an officer, a CO, and maybe 2 figures. For the supply column, we've used mules, 12 mules. I think they're the old Eschi Alpini mules. And it's turn 1, and the Chinese have opened fire and then cunningly advanced their infantry in the second part of the movement. So I would like to say get back to Bengbu. The fighting there in Little Bengbu was quite horrific, and by the time the 51st had lost control of the town, the 113th Division, which had been holding it, had lost 80% of its men. That's a hell of a contribution from an army that came to the battle with the nickname of the No Fight Army. So the 51st is clinging on the outskirts and environs of Little Bengbu, but the town itself is firmly in Japanese hands. Now, this is all Lai Zongren's plan, and this kind of plan will become familiar to you as we discuss or I platform my understandings of this war, because indeed, in so many battles in China that are Chinese victories, they are achieved because they are striking at the Japanese supplies, at their rears. The Japanese advancing too far and then getting their necks chopped. And chopping is what we'll be doing in the next video, the next battle that I'll do, because I'll be introducing the 59th Army. Alright, so let's just have another quick look around the table. If you like that, press like. Hey, I'm always after more subscribers. Yeah, these figures today I'm using are Matchbox figures, which I've painted as late war Japanese. Then my Guangxi Provincial Army, which is converted Caesar, French World War II infantry. And I think that's the whole lot. My homemade 120mm mortar. Oh, and of course the support weapons that I'm using for this battle for the Chinese, for the Guangxi Provincial Army, were the ones that have survived the previous 2 battles. So not much support, but probably enough to take this objective. Probably enough support to take this objective. Well, hopefully. But you never know how the dice are going to roll. So that's it for now. Press like and subscribe. See ya.